Welcome to episode 263 of the Centering Esports podcast presented by Alt. This is going to be the best episode ever. It is Monday. We have Yikes of the Week, everyone's favorite segment where we discuss things that made us go yikes. We have plenty of Valorant news to get to. Remember how we said Nitr0 is no longer with Team Liquid and he should sign with 100 Thieves for Valorant? Guess who listens to the podcast? That's right, Nate Shot. What's up? We know you do. So we'll talk about that and also a little European action for Valorant. And, of course, a loaded e-news to get to as well. But before we get to that, let me tell you about the show sponsor in Alt. Alt Esports is the #1 esports lifestyle apparel. You need to go to their website right now. Stop what you're doing. Continue listening to the podcast, but stop everything else. Go to altesports.com. You will find yourself. They just dropped this a couple days ago. The Minnesota Rocker playoff set. A badass, like dark purple, black tie-dye hoodie. It looks sick. They have the new Atlanta phase jacket. My closet is going to look like I'm a bunch of bandwagon because it's just going to be full of every merch from every team in the league. But when Alt makes it look so fire, it's hard not to buy it. So go to altesports.com, pick yourself up some new CDL merch just in time for champs. And while you're there, you can pick up a 101 Burglars hoodie designed by the TCR boys themselves. We will also have new stuff coming out with Alt here sooner than later. So always keep an eye out for that as well and get you some TCR merch when that drops. So that's at Ultimate on Twitter, altesports.com. Check it out. Let them know TCR sent you.
Hey, this is Shroud, and you're listening to TCR.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another edition of The Centering, a.k.a. TCR, a.k.a. your favorite esports podcast presented by Alt. Yes, this is episode 263 coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date is August 16th, 2020, and the time is 8:46 p.m. Central Time, of course. Got a packed show for you. A packed show. I want to say with breaking news, but you know what? When you're the #1 esports podcast and you kind of make the news, is any of it really breaking a nooch? I mean, when we predict these things an episode before they happen, it's just, I guess we'll talk about it again. I guess I'll pat ourselves on the back. But
I don't want to be called an insider all of a sudden, but
I mean, we're still not journalists, guys. Come on now, calm down. We're not journalists here. Don't take us too serious. But we'll talk about some Nitro news. That's exciting. But before we do that, go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Centering. Join our Discord. The link is in there as well. Website to be decided. I want to redo it. Don't know if I have the knowledge and or energy to do it. But for now, it's tcr.gg. And you can check that out. It has all our links to YouTube, Discord, everything as well. My name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up?
I've changed my title within the company. I am now the #1 esports insider for Valorant.
Of TCR.
Of TCR.
Very specific, but very true.
The sources are myself.
Listen, I don't want to say that our Twitter is a joke because we take it very serious. And when we say per sources, it is per a source. That is not a lie. But does anyone love saying per sources more than esports?
Oh, yeah, it's like in every single tweet.
Every tweet. Everybody has a source apparently. And it's almost to the point where it's like you almost want to start calling these people out. Or my favorite, and you see this all the time, where it's like, I don't want to name any names because we're above that, but like Slasher, or who's another one? Who's another guilty person of this?
I mean, I think any insider says it a lot in every sport, but you see it. Like, I mean, obviously we follow
Well, my
esports.
my favorite is like per source, Shroud is coming to Twitch, and the source is like literally Shroud's tweet that was tweeted out like 5 minutes before the insider quote unquote tweet, and I'm like, is your source by chance Shroud's Twitter account? Is that maybe by chance your source? But if all you do is put per sources or breaking news in front of it, people are going to like it and retweet it because they think it's truly breaking news.
Per sources, Ninja is streaming live on YouTube right now.
Jacob Wolf has done it. He's definitely pulled the per sources tweet when it's like the actual source is the official person tweeting about it in the open. But
somebody has an article called Per Sources. Maybe it's on Double Tap. I don't know.
Well, what's his face? Decay did he has a, I don't even want to say he has a podcast because he does it like once every 4 months. But it's called Per Sources.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
There's that.
But it's like a YouTube video that like he started doing it, much like everyone else. They realized they can't hang with the podcast boys because we're a different breed. We're a different breed, Anuj. You can't, people think they can just walk into this podcast life. You don't choose the podcast life. The podcast life chooses you.
It's like Harry Potter's wand.
It really is. When you stepped into the studio the first time, the lights flickered. They all just shined onto you, and I was like, my God, he's my co-host. I know it.
Here he is. This is him.
I know it. No, per sources. Love it. Per sources. This is truly going to be the greatest episode ever. I'm feeling good. It is Sunday, which is like my second least favorite day of the week because it just means that tomorrow's Monday.
You feel it all day.
Yeah, like
you feel it in your body all day. You just know you're a little extra tired.
Yep. You want to do something, but you're like, what's the point? Monday's tomorrow. But sports are back and full force. We're in playoffs now for hockey. Are we in playoffs for basketball?
Yeah, we had the play-in game playoffs like truly kick off tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Maybe now I'll start paying attention to basketball. Baseball, everyone cared about for like 4 days before every other thing started.
Until they gave everybody Corona.
Yeah, until it just became the major league of Corona. And I'm ready. You know, this is one thing that I think we're going to miss in a non-Corona world is although it sucked for like 4 months to not have sports back. Also, if you could just turn me down in your headset just a little bit, Anuj. It's coming. Your old man volume that you like to have up really loud. For those who don't know, Anuj blasts his headphones. He is deaf.
When we are playing Valorant or CS, I have this at like 150%. I can hear footsteps across the map. If somebody drops a gun, I know.
I 100% believe it. There's many times that I have to be like, Anuj, turn down your headphones. Like I can hear it coming through your headset. But one thing post Corona world that I think we're all gonna miss is like it sucked not having anything to do for 4 months. But the fact that like this month of August, which is normally the worst month of the year, which is why it is official positivity month for TCR, is like I woke up today at 7 a.m. I watched F1 racing at 8, which took me to 11, which then I watched NHL hockey, which then took me to NASCAR, which then took me back to NHL. Like it is like an all day, every day, some type of sport is going on. It's incredible.
I am a little scared that we're not going to get football. I have that fear. Like I have an itch in the back of my throat right now that's telling me like even college football seems like such a like there's just I don't know how they're going to pull it off.
The SEC might pull it off just because football's in their blood, and the NCAA would rather have all those kids have coronavirus than lose the money on SEC football.
That is true.
It was also real life F1. Kevin in the chat was asking. It was real life F1. But I do feel like I sent out the invite for my fantasy league because I'm the commissioner, which is the worst, by the way. Anyone who does fantasy football, if you've ever been the commissioner, you know it's the absolute worst.
Yeah,
Um,
it is. I do it for our work league.
it's terrible. I hate it. But I've done it for like 15 years, so whatever. I'll bear that cross. And I sent out the email and it felt hollow. Like no one's even gotten back to me yet if they're doing it again this year. Because I think no one has faith. Just like I think LANs, like esport LANs, are not going to come back until probably like late next year.
Yeah.
Like I really think it's going to be like maybe like a year from now. Like maybe next September we'll see. You know how
A little
Cologne this
depressing
year?
to think about that, right?
Like,
that we might not have land for another year
Yeah.
from now.
Yeah, like Cologne 2020 was supposed to be the first LAN event. That's fine. I still think Cologne will be the first LAN event, but of 2021.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna suck for a while. I also have no faith that football's coming back, which is sad.
There's just too many people involved.
We're gonna have a fall of no football and NA EU separated Counter-Strike tournaments.
Like,
It's gonna suck.
and basketball and hockey are like starting playoffs. It's not going to be around much longer.
No, that's
Like,
gonna be over before you know it.
They're both on the home stretch, and we're going to be with Corona-ridden baseball.
You thought March Madness being gone sucked last year. Just wait till it's gone 2 years in a row. Like, it's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. Now I'm thinking when the CS major is going to be split. Like, I think we're going to get an NA bracket. We're going to get an EU bracket, and we're going to have multiple major winners, which does that do anything for you? Like for a while there, the conversation was, oh, you know, the major could be online, but hey, it's still the major. It's still going to be good. But now it looks like these guys won't even be able to get in the same continent, let alone server.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I still want them to host some sort of major, even if it's online and split it. I don't like it, but just for the sake of like, I don't want to say they wasted a year. They still have to practice. They still have to put in the time. Like, I feel like they deserve the opportunity for the payout in one way or another. I mean, it's going to always have an asterisk by
yeah,
it,
100%.
right? As an NAEU major, like that's part of it. But it needs to go down as part of the record books of, hey, this is what happened this year. Like, this was crazy. This is
Maybe this will
never
be the
happens
year
again in
Ty
our
Lue can
lifetime.
actually win the major. After all the majors Ty Lue's been in, they can win the Oceanic bracket.
They knock out Renegades in the finals.
I don't even know where Renegades is based anymore. I feel like that
Yeah.
changes.
It's like Greyhound Gaming.
That changes all the time. So, all right, it is Monday, meaning we have a full slate of yikes from the previous weeks to get to. For those who might not know, we get new listeners all the time. Yikes of the week is exactly what it sounds like. It's moments of the week that just makes you go yikes in the world of esports or life. It's really just not, we don't discriminate here. It doesn't have to just be esports, but that's kind of our life. So it just kind of works out that way. So if you have any suggestions for yikes, hit us up in our Discord or on Twitter. We always love to see yours and bring it up on the show. Anuj.
The best thing is Yikes never fails to like hit.
Yeah, well, what started is what's funny is we started the segment and I was like, guys, let's just do this every Monday. It'll be kind of a recurring segment. And we were like, yeah, but what if we don't get any? Like, what if there's nothing that makes you go yikes? And now it's kind of like we have to actually filter them out because there's too many things that make us go. And it's just like, damn, esports.
There's like emergency Yikes weekends,
Yeah, sometimes you got to do it more than once because it just never fails. Like, it is always rough, but always entertaining. So it's all in good fun. Yikes of the week is all in good fun. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, mine, again, a reoccurring theme. Unfortunately, for Blizzard, this is more of a PR hit in terms of it may make sense in other ways from a business perspective. But Blizzard recently named Tony Titetti as president of sports and entertainment, where he'll oversee all basically esports operations, consumer products, film and television opportunities. Well, he's also supposed to help. They said focus on this generation of gaming, right? The youth in gaming and all that. Well, Tony Titetti is coming from the MLB. And to me, this is only a yikes because I felt like the MLB, of all the major sports out there have done the worst job appealing to a younger audience, right?
Sir, do you not like the celebrity softball game?
Like, I'm afraid his first thought is going to be like everything should be best of 5, just to prolong it. Just like go the baseball route and make this as long as possible. Everything's a BO5 and any of the esports they do. No, but like, again, it's only a yikes for me because I just feel like potentially there is a hazard of like this guy, although may be able to bring a good TV deal in, right? Baseball does it better than anybody. Finding a way to relate to your product is also important, right? Like when you're a lifelong baseball guy, it's easy to go into that world and enjoy it and understand it. Coming to esports, it still is a different breed, right? Like you can have all the business knowledge in the world, but it's still an industry that the landscape you have to learn, and that takes time. So we'll see if he'll be able to do it. I'm sure he's a smart guy. He'll probably pick it up, but relating to your consumer in this case to me is a yikes because I feel like baseball's really done it poorly.
Look, we all know the MLB truly stands for the Major League of Boomers, right? That's part of my concern, just like everyone else's when they first saw this headline. And I know a lot of people were very negative about it. But in the theme of positivity month, Anuj, I'm going to put my positive twist on this because everyone keeps saying, "Oh, we've danced this dance before." Right? We've always tried bringing in outsiders and they just never work because they don't know esports. But I don't think like you can't paint everything in the scene with that brush because we have seen it work out. Look at Envy and what Jeff, the president over there, is doing, right? We've talked to him hundreds of times and he is the furthest from what you would consider either a gamer, let alone esports, right? Very successful outside in the sports world, though. And now
iRacing is taken off and his background's in racing.
Which is kind of ironic, right? It's all comes full circle for him. So there's working out. Complexity has partnered with the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. Again, not esports, but they also can recognize opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to bring outsiders in. You do get a fresh perspective. It's just, how does he handle it? Now, is he going to come in and try to strong arm people and be like, guys, you play video games? I know what I'm talking about because I did baseball, right? And that's not going to work because that's just not how it works.
You assume somebody in his position taking that role understands the magnitude of it, right? Like it's not like he's going to take a big decline in his mind of what he thinks he was doing with the MLB and then look at gaming and being like, oh, this is just a small market thing, like I'm sure he understands the magnitude of it. And again, he'll probably do the job great, couldn't get much worse than the way some things have been run at Blizzard the past few years. So chances are it's going to be better either way.
Absolutely not. So, and you know what? Esports isn't the best. We're not perfect when it comes to the entertainment side, in my opinion. If you've ever been to an esport event in person, let alone watch one online, there's a shit ton of downtime. And when you're watching it at home, you can go watch another stream. You can go play a game in the meantime, things like that. Well, if you're there in person, you don't get to do any of that. And we have sat around for 30 minutes, 45 minutes in between games sometimes at these live events.
Watching the same HyperX commercial
1,000 times. So yes, there's definitely room for improvement. We've talked to a dozen tournament organizers and orgs on our ideas. None of them take it, but that's their problem. That's why they had to hire this guy.
And hiring an insider doesn't always work either. In my mind, like Nate Dancer for Epic, he went over there to run esports after leaving Blizzard for that opportunity, and it was looked at as a really good hire at the time, right? Like, oh, this guy helped build a franchise league that is now on the decline, by the way, and going over to Epic, where, I'm sorry, we still consider Fortnite not an esport, and he's been there for a couple of years now. Like, it's not like he's been there for 6 months or something. Like, he's had quite a bit of time in that role, and that unfortunately really hasn't shown. If they're working on a lot behind the scenes, you don't see it. So again, doesn't mean bringing in the insiders always the way to go either.
It's funny that you bring up Fortnite, Anuj, because that is exactly what my yikes of the week is about. As a Fortnite pro in air quotes, Kona was busted for hacking in their recent event. I believe it's the Fortnite Championship Series? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah,
Right?
FNCS.
And so he ended up actually making it all the way to the finals. And when I say busted for cheating, that makes it seem like Epic actually did something to catch him. I mean, he turned himself in. This was a guy that just couldn't resist the art of the crime and had to let the world know exactly what he did. And he actually tweeted out clips to other pros saying, hey, kind of like poking fun at the fact that look at me cheating and killing you while doing it, right? In the tournament.
He was streaming during the tournament while he was cheating and had gained traction on Twitter because of that, and that's how he ended up getting caught. So it's just...
this was all part of tongue in cheek on his part, right? That's not so much of the yikes because apparently he did it on purpose to prove a point. He says he did it on purpose to prove a point on how shit the anti-cheat and what a joke the esports professional side is of Fortnite. Which, I mean, if you've been listening to the Center Ring Esports podcast presented by Alt, you already knew that. Like, you didn't need this guy to tell you that Fortnite esports is an absolute joke. There's a reason it was on the F tier on our esports tier list. So not only does this happen, then he is signed by an org afterwards, somehow, whatever, I guess for popularity, right? That's how the world works. And then today, he just announced that he's leaving that org. So
did he say why?
He said, I'm leaving the org. So I don't know. Maybe signing a hacker, because that's what he is regardless, isn't the best move. But hey, this is just another stain on Epic and Fortnite esports that is just... It has never been operated apart from like early on. It's never been smooth.
Well, only the World Cup. That's it. You say early on, there wasn't much going on early on either that made you think it was well run. It was just, hey, the Fortnite World Cup was a success.
Yeah.
That's really it. Like, they had one good event. And beyond that, it's sad because they introduced a whole new audience to esports and they really let them down. Right? Those people that came into gaming, whether it's from console or PC, because they wanted to play Fortnite and thought, hey, I can go pro in this game, but wait a minute, there's really no true esports scene. Like, that's a huge yikes for me on Epic's part, because it's just, they let that next generation of gamers down from an esports perspective. They had to go find that elsewhere. Hopefully they did. Because if they're stuck in the Fortnite world currently, there's still nothing in play for them to show levels of advancement and a reason to get better. Like, it's just not there right now.
Apparently Kevin in chat informs me that this Kona guy is a notorious clan hopper. So
Clan. Love it.
Maybe that also just shows Kevin age by calling it a clan. But I guess that's a thing. That's a thing now. And that's also a thing that just tells you how much of a joke Fortnite is, when you can be an org hopper in Fortnite, because there's just so many random hole in the wall Fortnite orgs out there. So stay hard, Kona. I'm sure that probably puts a pin in your career, playing professionally anyways, but I'm sure you'll find a way. I believe. All right, let's get into some Valorant talk, Anuj. Get it? The game's called Valorant and our segment's called Valorant. It's when we rant on Valorant. Very original. We're actually the first ones to come up with it. Where do you want to talk? Do you want to talk Nitro first, or do you want to talk Ignition series?
I mean, Nitro is the fun part.
Let's do that second then, because I feel like we'll have more to say.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, so the Ignition series kicked off for the EU side. We talked NA last week, and really that was kind of the one that I feel like bought Tim and I both in a little bit more so than some of the other tournaments, because it felt like all the big teams were in this event, and you really got a feel for how the game is played on more of a competitive level. This is the EU version of that series, and I feel like, just how we were looking at TSM and Sentinels going into that event, the same kind of outlook in this event was for G2 and Team Liquid, right? Team Liquid being the newly signed team. They were Fish 123 previously. They've played together, so it's not like it was a new org that was formed in that sense. But these were the two teams, and Yeah, this event didn't disappoint either. Unfortunately, we didn't get that finals here. G2 was eliminated. G2 eliminated Team Liquid in the semis. I'll be honest, the format kind of bothered me a little bit. It's just being a best of one in the playoffs. I think a best of three should really be the minimum that you do. But yeah, G2 eliminated Team Liquid in the semis. They ended up going up against Fun Plus Phoenix, who really is a newly formed roster from just 2 weeks ago, and back to back, really good showings for them. Unfortunately, for them, G2 beat them 2-0 in the finals. But overall, Tim, the EU side seems so healthy. You're seeing all these new teams being coming from really all different regions. Like we had a team from Turkey, we had a UK team. We have several teams that are full like international squads, and it's great to see because the EU scene will really, I feel like, flourish in Valorant also. And um, watching Scream play, dude, it boggles my mind how he's been riding tier 2 bottom tier 1 CS for the last year and a half because he's really, incredible out there along with Mixwell. Like both of these guys, that's another person that kind of rode this crap wave of CS for so long, and you really see how talented these guys are. I mean, they're gifted.
I hate saying like someone deserves, like a pro deserves this, right? Like when they win something and everyone's like, oh, he deserves it, or I want them to win because they deserve it. I hate that saying just because it's a competition. It whoever wins deserves it. That being said, Mixwell deserves it. That guy,
Yeah.
I have been rooting for him for so long on the CS side. For those who might not necessarily have followed CS, and even at that point, more tier 2 ish, lower tier 1, because that's kind of where Mixwell floated around. This guy got the short end of every deal, and it was to no fault of his own at
Yeah.
all. He was on Optic. Well, then Optic pretty much like wasn't an org at that point in time, and at least focusing on CS was the least of their concerns, right? So he's kind of left hanging there. He was on Cloud9 for like half a minute, but then they kind of let him go so quick, and that was after he decided to make the move to NA again, but then he was like, all right, well, I'm going to try to go to EU, and then it just never really worked out from there either. Like he just jumped around team to team, but again, it wasn't like he was the reason why.
He wasn't making the decision to like hop
No.
around. Like he even stuck it out with Optic during the whole sale transition that they
Yeah.
were going through, and he was one of the last man standing, in that org. And so yeah, he 100% deserves the success because he's really worked his butt off. He made the transition to Valorant early on, like we've been talking about him for a while, and he excels at the game, dude. He's a monster out there. Like
Who does he play, or what style does he play? Do you know?
he plays a lot of Jet.
Okay.
He's really really good on Jet. I'm sure there's actually like a couple of agents that he goes through, but yeah, I mean he plays a lot on Jet.
Okay. I'm looking. Okay. So VLR.gg. I'll tell this for people too. So Anuj pointed me into this website's direction. VLR.gg. Victor Lemon Romeo. I don't know what L is for military talk. Lima. Is like the HLTV site, but for Valorant.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to always refer to. You know how we refer to HLTV? That's kind of our golden rule when it comes to ranking in CS. Unless things change, this is for now what I'm going to refer to for rankings on Valorant, because it really is an incredible site. But just looking at Mixwell's hero or his agent pool, he has 1,400, a little over 1,400 rounds on Jet. His next most is Viper at 106. So
yeah, and like competitively, he only will switch between like Jet and Raze. He doesn't even use Viper in like comp. Like in this event, he only used Jet and Raze. Looking
okay,
at
and Raze is even 34, so that might be like a new development thing.
Like
on
it's
that.
it's not a lot, but he excels on Jet. I mean, the way he uses that ultimate, his ability to obviously just use the movement abilities with Jet. That's the difficult part, and he makes it look flawless. And that team as a whole, like G2, they went through a lot this event. with David P having his father pass away in the middle of the event, in the middle of a match, and he gets the call, has to obviously leave his team at that point, which ended up being momentarily, right? He like came back the next day and started competing in events. And so, we say Mixwell deserves it. David P, in my mind, if you weren't rooting for him, you don't have a soul, right? Like this guy, I can't imagine what he was going through, and he played well. The team played around him. That they were there to support him, and G2. This was their event to lose. Like you felt like momentum was going to be riding with them after that. Mixwell put up what he had two stellar games in the finals. I think he almost had like 40 combined between the two maps, but he was just them as a whole, they were really good. I thought Liquid, if they had another map, it was going to be a 50-50 shot. G2, then Liquid played in the group stage and split it 1-1. It was just two matches that they did. I think we probably could have seen something similar here, but overall, good series. It was a good event. The big boys kind of showed up towards the end. You had Nip also, making it through to the playoff stage. So, overall, happy with the way it looks on the EU side, and man, I cannot wait for these two sides to clash.
It's almost like we're gonna get like a double dose of it, right? It's like Valorant esports. It's like we waited for Valorant esports to really kind of pick up, and I feel like it has with the Ignition series, right? Like it just in like the last 2 or 3 weeks, like it really has felt like Valorant esports has kicked it up to that next level that we've been waiting for. And now it's almost like, okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is LAN. Doesn't necessarily have to be NA versus EU LAN. I just want to see it on a LAN. Because think about that. We have pros that are playing at the top level. They've never played this game on LAN. Like, how insane is that? They've never played the game on LAN before. So that's insane. But then I want to see, like, when we see NA versus EU clashes, and then, my God, when you throw in Korea, help us all. But it's going to be the LAN events for this, I feel, have potential to be like the League of Legends Worlds or the international type of hype level.
It'll for sure be a worldwide event. I honestly believe we'll see like a Japanese team competing at the highest level, like in the biggest tournaments. Like there's 1 or 2 Japanese teams that are really good right now, and they have their version of like the Ignition series going on. Obviously I believe we'll see a South Korean team. Like these guys are competing in their own smaller events right now, just because everything's so regionally based at the moment that we're not hearing a lot about them. But yeah, you're right. Like when this goes LAN, this will be a true like world event. Unlike CS, where we really primarily see it to like CIS, EU, NA, and you trickle in the random teams. Like you could have an event with 10 different countries represented, like literally team based, right? Like an NA team might only have 1 or 2 teams in an event because there's so many good teams that, in every other region. So I'm excited for LAN for Valorant for sure. You're right though. It'll be in stages. It's going to feel like we're getting just a taste of it now, and then you'll really get hit with it later when it goes to LAN.
Yeah. All right. So there's that. Let's talk about the next big talking point though on the Valorant side of it. So last episode in E-News, it was an E-News topic last episode, right? Nitr0 stepping down from Liquid, or was it 2 episodes ago?
Yeah,
it's all running together. Maybe a week ago, maybe 2 episodes ago. We talked about Nitr0, former Team Liquid and CS, leaving. Oh, that's what it was. 2 episodes ago, a week ago, he announced he is stepping down from Team Liquid. And we even discussed on the show, I wonder what his next play is. Is he sticking with CS? Is he going to Valorant? I think I even was on the record where I don't see that happening. I thought it was a little too soon to assume he's already turning his back on CS. And then you made the point, well, there's just the pool for NA is pretty small, and we can get to that later. And then we heard, okay, he is coming over to Valorant official. Like he's focusing on Valorant. And you, Anuj, official #1 esports Valorant insider on the center ring, Anuj Anawaje, you called it. Let's give credit where credit is due, because you, sir, let's give a round of applause. A round of applause for Anuj, because you called it. You said Nitro will probably end up on 100 Thieves.
Tim, my main goal there was I'm just trying to get a Timmy.
Who was your source? Can you give your source away?
I can't at the moment. I don't want to, I don't want to put him in that type of position.
Fair enough. Official show policy, we never give away our sources.
But yeah, I mean, my goal was to get a Timmy at the end of the year. I want to be known as the #1 insider for Valorant. I feel like I'm stepping up. No, it made sense, right? Like saying it out loud, it was like, okay, this could fit if he made the switch, right? He's playing with Hiko before, right? They were on Liquid together in like 2017. And that's when they had like, Pasha, not that's Sasha. I'm forgetting his in-game name. Simple. Yeah, it's when they had Simple on the team.
You guys are just too good of friends. You don't even call
like
Simple.
First name basis. Yeah, no, I mean that was like a team that really bonded together. I believe that was one of your first big events that you had gone to.
Yeah, the Columbus Major in 2016, was it? So yeah,
2017. Yeah, around there, whatever it was.
Look,
but yeah,
he was so young at that point. When I hung out with Nitro at the event, which I can legit say I sat at a table with Team Liquid for like the after party one night, because their coach James at the time was their coach, and so we sat there. They were so young they couldn't have drinks. Like him and Elite.
I mean, Nitro is still so young, you know.
Like, they were too young. They couldn't drink at the time.
Yeah, we weren't sure if he would make the switch because obviously we know there's a lot of money in CS, and he's a tier 1 talent in CS.
Right.
Well, like we said, there weren't a lot of places for him to go. And so if he was going to make the switch to Valorant, getting in sooner rather than later, right? Because you still got to play catch up if you're him. He's got all the game knowledge in the world for Counter-Strike, but it's still a different game, right? It allows you to make the switch because mechanically you're going to be gifted at the game.
Right.
We know that. We know your aim is going to be tier 1 level right off the bat, but you still got to play catch up. And so I thought it was, that's the reason it was like, hey, if we're going to do this, we got to do it now, like before it starts peaking. I'm sure 100 Thieves was also sitting there giving him an opportunity. Like, if you want to do this, we got to do this now because we're making the switch too, right? Team has not been performing. Their best finish was a top 6, I think, in the first event that they had together. Beyond that, they haven't made it out of group stages. You're probably, in that case, if you go down that pathway, going to lose Hiko at some point due to frustration or him wanting to play, with the squad that makes sense for him.
Right.
It's not to say.
I feel like, and this is me not knowing anything on the topic, I feel like that Hiko 100 Thieves relationship sort of got off on the wrong foot. And I say that because when Hiko was brought in, I feel like the vibe across the board was Hiko's the captain. He is going to be the creator of this roster, right? He is going to be the puppet master pulling the strings and the signings. And Nadeshot is just writing the checks, right? That's why I felt like everyone figured when you signed Hiko onto the roster. And then I don't even think it was a week later, they announced that they signed 4 other dudes, and they weren't Overwatch pros. They weren't CS pros. They weren't even Apex pros. They were PUBG pros, which made absolutely no sense. Like, sure, I'm sure their skill level is probably up there, right? A professional gamer is a professional gamer, and I believe that. But the transition isn't one for one on that one, right? Hiko is thinking that you were going to build a roster around him and his skill sets. Bringing in a PUBG roster is not that. So I felt like maybe that got off on the wrong foot. At least from the public perception, it definitely got off on the wrong foot.
Just even little things like call-outs and all that. Like with the other Counter-Strike pros, your call-outs can be really similar from game to game, right? Like we call things heaven. I mean, there's just ways we notate things in the game and call out things related to CS immediately, right? And I know what you're talking about because of that background. But like with PUBG pros, that blend just never seemed like it was going to work. And we talked about that early on. It just didn't make sense. It's good on them for reversing course, quickly and not waiting too long.
Yeah.
But you're right. It seemed off from the start. Like it just seemed like it didn't make sense. Um, Talk about a 180 though. Like now you're in an opportunity right now where you have a tier 1 Counter-Strike pro. You have a former tier 1 Counter-Strike pro who really like kind of almost just went into retirement, right? Like I wouldn't say Hiko fell really to tier 2 necessarily. He
Nah,
just kind
he
of
kind of
like,
went in pseudo retirement. I think he
yeah,
just
he's
did his
like, I'm
own
gonna go
thing.
stream and make my money that way, right? Um, and now you're gonna see them have full control over this roster, and I think that's huge. There may be a chance, Tim, that we see another tier 1 CS player on this roster,
I
right?
think.
Depending on,
Oh, go ahead.
well,
Finish your
I was
thought.
gonna say, depending on like, I don't even know if it's necessarily region based. Like maybe they're able to have another semi-retired player, I guess you could say, come and join them. But I wouldn't be surprised if we had another like big name move on this roster.
No, I could 100% see that. So to fill everyone in who don't know, the PUBG boys are out. All four of them. They dropped that entire roster. So at the moment, 100 Thieves is only Hiko and Nitro.
Yep.
They don't have three other guys, so they still have to look for three other signings. If Nate Shot, I know you listen to the podcast because every time we tell you guys to do a signing, you do. A la Hiko and Nitro. This is pretty much our roster, Nitr. So whoever else you want them to sign, we should probably talk about it so that way they can get to work on it. So they can start getting invited back to tournaments and whatnot.
Can I go ahead and just make another call for you then, real quick?
Please.
Bring Roka onto this roster. Grab him right now. He's playing for Limitless or one of the like unsigned teams. Bring Roka over. Roka is a tier 1 NA talent. Might not be a tier 1 overall, but he's a tier 1 NA talent for CS. Slide him over because he showed a lot of promise in his early games in the Ignition series also. So I think, like I said, I think there's room for another like big name or two to join these guys.
And I think with the roster they have now, I think signing Nitro so soon after CS, like I said, in my opinion, I thought it kind of blew my mind. It was almost like, wow, Nitro, you go from playing with the same org your entire CS career, right? With Liquid, you have reached major finals. You have one of the best NA careers in the history of CS. And after 1 week, you're done. You announce you're no longer on the roster, and not only that, you're done with the game. So that blew my mind, first of all. But I think this leaves 100 Thieves with the best opportunity to create that kind of CS juggernaut team on Valorant. Because now I think it does show Hiko does have some swing with the org. Like I think Hiko probably walked into Nate Shot's office and said, listen here, bro. Like, I'm not playing with these PUBG kids. I'm just not doing it. I need to be, facilitated. I need some support here. So as soon as Nitro became available, they probably slid up into his DMs before like the tweet was even sent that he was going to Valorant. Like, who knows? Maybe them approaching Nitro was part of that encouragement, because let's be real, 100 Thieves is a very sexy org, right? They are an org that I think anyone would want to play with. So I could totally see Nitro being on the fence about what to do next, but then when Hiko and 100 Thieves approach him, he's like, all right, I'm in. Let's do this.
This will be tier 1 for him, right? Like he's going to remain a tier 1 talent in esports. And so like 100 Thieves isn't going anywhere. They have an LCS slot, right? Or they have a league slot already. So for them, when Riot eventually takes this over and is looking for teams buy-ins for the next, for the next run, I think this sets them up in position perfectly because they're going to have a competitive roster already. You can tell that they're building a competitive roster here. And that makes sense to have that ready when Riot starts looking for franchises. Like that's going to happen at some point, and they could not afford to start off behind so many other teams and then you're trying to find talent, right? Recognize your mistake early, make the change now, build up Hiko, because Hiko wasn't going to stick around if this continued to go that way. He only has X long left, to be able to do this himself. So I think this is huge for Valorant to pull a pro of that level from Counter Strike. Whether you want to say he retired from CS or whatever, like he made the move, and that kind of leads me into what I wanted to talk to you about on this because it makes me a little concerned for Counter Strike, but not in the way that people are going to be like, Anuj, what are you talking about? Like, how is this going to hurt Counter Strike? Look, I'm not saying that Nitro leaving is going to destroy Counter Strike. It's just showing that there is a lack of opportunity available to the top tier players within Counter Strike outside of a handful of orgs, especially if you're an NA talent, right? It's inflated cost. We're seeing people play with lower level teams than we're accustomed to because it's affordable, but yet it keeps them relevant and within the scene. And there's only one or two teams that Nitro really hadn't even an option to go to if he wanted to stay like if he went to a middle of the pack NA team and started competing in CS there, how quickly would we forget about Nitro, right? Like he wouldn't be in the back of your mind too long if he wasn't competing at the highest level, because all we care about in CS is the top 15 ranked teams in the world. And that's really it. Like below that, you really start to like diminish how much you give a shit when they're playing in events. Like it's the honest truth. There's enough CS out there for me to know that. So my question to you, Tim, is do you have any fears of like the CS landscape in relation to like, Valorant being around the corner?
I really do. And I think I even had that feeling before Nitro moved over, mainly because the influx of people that we've seen from CS that moved over to Valorant it is the NA side, right? You haven't seen as many of the top players, or even like those players right on the cusp of tier 1 or whatnot on the EU side move over to Valorant. Now, Valorant has been available here in NA a little longer, but the mindset, people in EU knew what it was. It wasn't like it was a hidden gem, right? So they knew ahead of time what their plans were, I would think. So I don't know if that's really an excuse. But yeah, I think I don't say worried, but as an NA fan for CS, it has me a little concerned with, okay, what top talent do we have in our farm system now on CS that you have to look forward to? And even on that side, for the top talent that's there, what other option do they have if where they're at doesn't work out? Because you're absolutely right. For NA, for true NA, what I'm saying, right? Liquid and Evil Geniuses, right? That's really it. Those are
complexities EU.
Yep.
Right.
Well, sort of. They have Rush and stuff, but they're in EU. But they're doing fine. I don't know if they're not in a position to make a roster move.
No, they're not. Envy is there, but Envy is still working to prove a lot from the CS standpoint over the last couple of years, right? They had the glory days and then they've had Envy of recent. So still maybe not the most lucrative place for the best of the best to go right now, right? They're not looking to like rebuild. They're looking to go to a team that's ready to go. But yeah, like it's not so much an issue today as Tim is, I think, as Valorant continues to grow. We talked about Valorant earlier in stages, right? We're just in stage 1 and look at all the talent that's moved over from Counter-Strike. Whether you want to say Anuj, those were a bunch of tier 2 players. Those are the players that we're going to be moving up, hopefully, in the CS ranks to one day take over for some of the older players, right? Like that's just naturally the progression. That's how it works. Or they get better to where their org ends up being a tier 1 org. A lot of those players have left now. Now, from a tier 2 standpoint, Nitro being one of the few that we've talked about, the only really that's a tier 1 talent. What happens when this goes to a franchising model and Riot starts putting millions of dollars into promoting the esport, having massive LAN events, having worldwide tournaments, like really making it then appealing to CS players who are used to like the big stage? The money in Counter-Strike is only good at the top. it's not like tier 2 players are making literally anything. And then if you're an average to lower tier 1 guy, you're not making like godlike money. If Valorant is able to be incredibly profitable, which we believe it will be, like it'll be a profitable investment for orgs to be in. I could see more people moving then than we're even seeing now. And so I'm a little fearful in the sense that I don't think Counter Strike's going away. It's just I'm fearful for the growth of that game. Like we might be at a peaking point in my mind, and not to say it's going to roller coaster down, but it could start to steady off. And this is maybe the new like where we're at.
I just think we're at the crossroads, right? And yeah, you're absolutely like, I don't think Counter-Strike's going away. I don't want anyone to think that we're saying Valorant is overtaking Counter-Strike in the esports world. But when it just comes to developing the talent and even like the priority on the org side, right? Because we all know, and it's very on public record by owners and everyone. And even Nifty just said it in one of his little tweets when he was kind of giving everyone a state of the union on Envy. Counter-Strike is super expensive. Like, if you want a winning roster, you pretty much just have to go and buy that winning roster in Counter-Strike, and it ain't cheap. Like, we see the buyouts, and it's like some of them are talking high six figures. Now it's creeping up to over $1 million. Like, that's super expensive in a game that you don't see that type of return for. You just don't. The Counter-Strike, for whatever reason, is the number one esport out there, but you just don't see the type of return as others have. So I don't think that also has something to do with the priority shift, right? And I'll bring up Envy for this situation, okay? We all know Envy is having issues right now with their Counter-Strike roster. They've removed some people, and they're looking for what? 3 more? 2 more?
Yeah. Oh, 2 more. They moved the coach down.
All right, so they're looking for 2 more people. Right across the hall, who did they sign for their Valorant roster? FNS. A top tier CS guy that could have moved on to the CS team, but they prioritized him to move on to their Valorant roster.
Even somebody like Caboose. Right?
Caboose is another
has been
one.
in the CS scene for a long time. Never really had the shot. He was good on like Selfless and a couple other teams, but never really had the shot. He also wanted to obviously move over to Valorant. So again, my concern is like people as they start getting into gaming now, right? Like new to the FPS genre. What are they going to go play? Are they going to go play Counter-Strike or are they going to go play Valorant? What's a more enjoyable experience as somebody that's new to FPS? Like that's not us, right? Like you and me both played Valorant and CS:GO this weekend. But that's not going to be everybody. Like people will start to lean one way or the other or have a favorite. I think the older generation will always stick to Counter-Strike in the sense they'll always continue to play it to some extent. But Valorant's new. It's appealing. Its matchmaking system is fleshed out. I can see my rank properly. I can see the progression. Like it's a shiny new toy that will only get better, I think, as they add agents, as they add maps, as they add infrastructure, as this goes to land.
As they add maps, Anuj. Come on.
Look, dude, they need to add some freaking maps to that
on the
damn
bright
game.
side to Nitro moving over, people keep saying, and you're even now seeing pros say that the map pool in Counter-Strike is getting dull and there needs to be more maps. He'll feel right at home in Valorant because there's only 4. So it is brutal. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like I said, I just think it's not like it's not the end of Counter-Strike, but I think it's definitely a wake-up call. As we've been saying all along, like Valorant, it was going to be a wake-up call for Counter-Strike in general, the game. I think Nitro moving over, and as fast as he did, is a wake-up call to the esports scene of CS, and especially NA. Like, holy shit, you just had one of your most historic players leave a team and immediately jump ships to go to a different game. Like, yikes. There was nothing there. I know Obi in chat brings up, could Fortnite maybe have hurt that FPS pool for NA? I don't think Fortnite hurt anything. To be honest with you, I think the people
Fortnite did early on, and then as people realize, like again, like the lack of esports,
but it hurt like PUBG and other BRs. It didn't hurt
yeah,
FPS.
it didn't hurt Counter Strike
No,
necessarily. Yeah,
not at
yeah.
all.
No, I think Counter Strike just needs a major facelift, and that'll help the game a lot. You don't have to make a new CS:GO, right? There doesn't have to be a CS:GO 2, but like going to Source 2, remaking your matchmaking system, cleaning up the map pool a little bit, like giving that a little bit of a facelift, right? From a map pool standpoint, make it appealing for people
Yeah.
to play matchmaking,
I will
right? Like make it
also,
appealing for people to grind the game out.
and from an organization standpoint and money standpoint, I will give some benefit of the doubt that this year has sucked when this was supposed to be the first year of like quote unquote actual leagues, right? With Flashpoint, ESL revamped how their league works. Blast Pro was not necessarily a league, but just another, very important kind of cog in that money-making machine for CS orgs. And the fact that all kind of got blown out the window with COVID, it does kind of suck, because I think that's also something they got to take a look. We've heard for years and years that CS is hard to make money, and most of the teams don't make money off their CS rosters. Well, then maybe we need to kind of rework that idea. Let's figure something out to make money on that, right? We have all these smart people. Let's figure it out.
Outside of COVID, Counter-Strike just hurt itself this year, though, with all the bad publicity, right? The infighting between the leagues. Obviously, we've had the situation, what is it, recently? Yeah, the infighting between the leagues.
Well, the
and then we
Blast
had,
Pro with
the Blast Pro
Neon.
situation. We've just, obviously, all these people like leaving now has left a kind of a stain on the scene a little bit. So hopefully, again, a facelift is around the corner. You would think that Valve at least is taking more notice. The bright side of this whole situation, Tim, right? The positive side is that Valve should be on full alert, like high notice right now, level red. This is coming.
Yeah.
And it's going to be successful. How successful? We have to wait and see. But you don't want to wait too long, right? You really don't want to wait too long. And so I'm hoping that this drives competitive CS to like another level also, but only time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, really. And, it might be a little bit, right? It might be a little bit till things kind of get back to normal in the world to where we really see it really take effect. But, I think there's enough room in esports for both of these games that are very similar to be both very successful, right? Counter-Strike even more than what it is, and Valorant becoming successful. There's enough room to have both.
There's only room for one top dog, though. That, like, these guys are not going anywhere. Again, I want to reiterate that 100 times. But everybody wants to be the best, right? Like, everybody wants to be number one at what they're doing. There's only room for one at that top of that mountain. And that's where I would be like, okay, could Valorant get there? Could I see it getting there? Yeah, maybe. Maybe there's a chance, more so now than I thought 3-4 months ago. Like there's definitely a chance.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Anything else for Valorant you want to get at? We played some this weekend, dominated, by the way.
It was a fun weekend. I'm glad we actually jumped on. Like it had been a while since we just kind of grinded out some games, like just going for 3-4 hours and getting to play. Like that was
Killjoy still sucks, by the way. Android, who is now a former Counter-Strike pro, playing Valorant, friend of the show, responded to you saying Killjoy is not overpowered. No, she's ridiculous and absolutely a shutdown player.
Very excited to see what nerfs they put in place for her, because on defense she is really ability to hold a solo site, no problems, and in fact can in some cases hold 2 sites depending on where she drops some of her nades or mines down.
You put Killjoy and a Cypher on a site, that bitch is locked down. Like they will be able to slow any push for a rotation any day of the week. Which there's a reason they still don't allow Killjoy in events. So we're not wrong yet again. We'll move on to E-News here real quick, but one other player for 100 Thieves that I wouldn't mind seeing is Freakazoid.
Freakazoid's been streaming a lot, so it's funny that you say that because I was watching him stream earlier today, and like he's been playing a lot of Valorant, and that's actually like a fantastic name to throw out there because another guy that's probably done with his peak of CS, right? He could continue to play it in some capacity if he wanted to, or he could be tier one in Valorant most likely right away if he wanted to. Like, what's a more appealing offer? I think that's a great name. Like, I could easily see that happening because he has been playing a lot and he's not signed by anybody. He knows these guys, like he's been around. So yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yep. So I could definitely see that also kind of joining that 100 Thieves Counter-Strike squad there. So obviously keep an eye on it. Like we said, they still need 3 players. So I have to assume with how tournaments and everything are going at rapid pace right now for Valorant, you definitely don't want to be left out, especially when you're 100 Thieves and you pretty much have an instant invite to any of these. So you probably are going to get your roster locked down relatively soon. So we'll keep an eye on that. And you know what? Just follow us on Twitter at the Center Ring. Maybe you'll have some per sources updates for you from our #1 esports Valorant insider, Anuj.
You might have hit Freakazoid on nail on the head right there, Tim. Might be splitting some duties soon.
Hey, there's like you said, there's only one on top of that mountain, sir. Might have another #1 esports Valorant insider. All right, let's get into some e-news. A little bit to get to here. This one I don't know. I feel like we might be doing it dirty, just throwing it into e-news. But what did the world need, Anuj? Do we need to cure cancer? Do we need to figure out world hunger? Corona vaccine? That can wait. You know what we need? Another ranking system in CS. Because that's what we got as the Counter-Strike Professional Players Association decided to announce that they all got together. And in all those meetings that you don't think they're doing anything in, they said, no, we've been discussing issues. Not the ones you think, not the fact that tournaments and schedules and we don't really have a player break and all that, but we want a new ranking system.
This, and I'll talk to you about this a little bit more later on, because per sources, which are real in this case, this was driven by teams within the Players Association, okay? This was not driven by the business heads sitting at the CSPPA. This was team driven. You can take a wild guess at the teams that I'm probably talking about here. But this was very team driven. You can see that in the formatting of the ranking and the kind of shit show that it'll pull up and how it's benefiting certain teams more so than others. And so, we're probably doing this a little disservice throwing it here, and that's okay. I don't know if we'll actually ever get back to it, honestly, but I don't put this necessarily like on the figureheads of the CSPPA. Like this was a team-driven setup, and it makes no sense to do it.
Main difference,
we're following HLTV.
The main difference with their ranking system is that the points are assigned to the individual players. So, like, if they make roster moves, then those points are following them, and it will base off the rankings and things like that. That's the big difference. They actually released their ranking list. I don't have it in front of me. It is way different, though, from what is out there for HLTV and everything there. Look, to me,
in their events,
HLTV is still going to be the golden standard, in my opinion. I get why they're doing this, but it just seems like, as a players association, your job is to work with these orgs and Valve and try to create a healthy atmosphere for you guys. I feel like what they're doing more and more is combating them.
Yeah, this was... I don't see why they're doing this. No. Personally, I don't. It doesn't make sense to me. In their format, a 4-team event gets more. A 4-player event, invite only, gets more points based on like those games based on like a 10-player or 10-team event. So it's like it's really weird some of the ground rules that they laid out in this and how the points should be distributed. Again, we're gonna follow HLTV. Like that's just all I know.
Yep. Thorin tweeted out, and I only bring this up for a certain point, but Thorin is pissed at Nitr0. For those who don't know, they're pretty much an esports news website, basically going on about how they've been shady with him in dealings. This is not the first time. Am I saying it right? Dixerto? Is that how I've?
No, I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
All right,
with you.
Dixerto. That's how I always said it, but maybe I'm saying it wrong. Look, I bring this up only to go on a little rant. Can you believe it? Me going on a little soapbox rant? Go figure.
I'm curious to see which way you're going here.
This is an issue for me in esports, and I have said this in other interviews outside of the show, right? There is plenty of content in the world of esports, but I feel like so much of it is a conflict of interest and double dipping, where the reason Dixerto has always been brought up in the past is because their ownership, or at least it used to be, was with Optic Gaming, correct?
Yeah. Hex is still part owner, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so Hex is... Okay, so it's moved with Hex now, so it's more towards Chicago and everything there. So when you have what is supposed to be a credible news source, but yet part of their owner is also an owner of an org, right? To me, that's always going to be a conflict of interest. Like, we see it and that's my issue with some of these big talking heads in esports, like Thorin, like Monty, where it's like they host a League of Legends show, but it's through Cloud9, right? So it's kind of like, I don't need my orgs hosting their own news program. Like, I don't feel like you're ever going to get a non-biased opinion when Cloud9 or these guys are hosting their own stuff. That's my soapbox rant.
No, I feel you. I mean, with Dixerto, I don't know where I really stand with them, because some of the stuff that they do really bothers me in terms of
they're an article website,
not crediting people. They're like Barstool in a lot of ways also, where they see something funny, they take it and they quickly throw it on their site as quick as they can to blow it up, right? Like Barstool does that to a certain extent too, right? That's just kind of how this world works on the media side. So,
right. Well, but that's just how, you're absolutely right. I don't give a shit about people. We are past the point in social media about getting upset about not crediting people. Now, if it's something huge and you're not crediting them with, sure. If it's a piece of art or something like that, I get it. But if it's news, again, you just slap per sources on front of that bad boy. No one can tell you shit. Well, how do you know this? Per a source, sir. Well, who's your source? Whoa.
Can't go that far.
Well, we don't get out that information. It's dumb. It's dumb. I just wanted to go on. I just wanted to point it out, Anuj, that the Center Ring really is your only unbiased esports content out there. We're not in any owner's back pocket. Okay, no one can buy us. That's a lie.
Well, that's a lie.
You can absolutely. I will.
I will talk
Seattle,
your org up all day.
Seattle, you want to be my favorite to win the champs coming up? You just slide in that PayPal. I will gladly give you guys the champs. Oh, hey, Anuj, did you know ESL Cologne starts tomorrow? Or on Tuesday?
Yeah, bro. I know it starts tomorrow.
No, ESL starts this week, so of course we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not as hyped as I wanted to be.
I'm hyped for half of it. I'm hyped for the EU side.
Yeah,
the EU side seems like a real tournament. I'm excited to see FaZe on that side. I'm excited to see the new look of Astralis for now. With Na'Vi, Vitality, and all these guys are back. So I am excited for the EU side, because I feel like we're getting a full tournament. We're getting a 16-team tournament. Some teams might get screwed by ping a little bit, but overall, very excited for the EU side. The NA side, why would I get excited on the NA side is what I'm trying to figure out. Sure, okay, I'm excited to see new look Liquid a little bit more, right? See Grim perform against some of the bigger teams, but the bigger teams on NA, where only EG, Furia, I guess is they're pretty good. But again, just not Cologne NA. Unfortunately, is a want. It's just there's not much there for me to to get excited about. But I am excited for the EU side. I will tune in and watch a lot of EU matches.
LCS and LEC playoffs are going on right now. On the LCS side, we have seen Immortal, CLG, Dignitas, and 100 Thieves be eliminated. And on the European side, we have seen Origin, Vitality, and Misfits so far kick the bucket. So we'll get probably Kevin, our League of Legends insider, on the show here maybe in the next week or so to update everyone on what you need to know from the playoffs. Again, I'm not going to pretend like I follow a whole lot of League. I know a lot of people don't like Double Take right now. I think people are still pissed off at him. So people are really, but you know, that's all I know. I see Twitter, they don't like him. That's all I know. In COD, champs start up this week. So go check out our preview if you have not already with head coach of New York Subliners, Revan, that you can find on any app for podcasts and our YouTube, youtube.com/thecentering. Go check out our champs preview. We broke that down last Wednesday. In Battle Royale news, we're not really going to cover this on the show, I don't think, unless it just really gets entertaining. But Epic had adjusted their in-game app pricing for Fortnite, which was directly related to conflict with Apple's and Google's charges that they set on top of it, which then in retaliation, Apple decided to pull Fortnite from the App Store. So now if you have an iPhone or anything like that, I guess if you have Fortnite installed, you're good to go. But if you're wanting to do it now, it's too late. It's gone. So
I believe Google pulled it as well now.
Google has pulled it also. So there you go. So. And that resulted into Epic Games is now suing Apple and maybe Google later on for, I guess, pulling their games. I really don't know the whole reason, but look,
it's like they had their own like in-game purchase shop, basically, where you could get around the Apple taking 30% cut type thing. So
yeah, so it's I think a lawsuit between two giants of the business. I think from a business standpoint, it's going to be absolutely fascinating. You know, for just a normal pleb in day-to-day life like me.
Tell me the verdicts when we get there.
Yeah, tell me how it ends, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be fun, though. For the Rainbow Six American Major, we did have the finals earlier today. Dark Zero ended up sweeping TSM 3-0 in the finals. What was also announced, though, really, that's just cool. The finals, great. The big exciting news, in my opinion, in this reporter's opinion, is they announced that Sam Fisher is coming to Siege. Sam Fisher, a.k.a. Splinter Cell, is coming to Siege. So, that is
just as he'll be an operator in the game?
I think he's going to be an operator. Like a playable
cool.
operator in the game.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I wonder what abilities he'll throw on.
Am I going to be able to climb on a pipe or something? Like what are we getting here?
He's hanging from a wall like
Spider-Man. Snap your neck and it's like, oh, all right. GG, I guess. I don't know, but hey.
Still cool.
I can't wait to play my yearly pilgrimage to Rainbow so I can play him. Because I feel like I
buy that one operator pass now.
Right. I feel like that's another one of those games where we get on once a year and we're like, this is a lot of fun. And then we just forget about it. But
yeah,
just not enough time in the world to play every game. Sorry. In Valorant, the Pittsburgh Knights Invitational, our friends, the Pittsburgh Knights, it is currently in the finals. Gen G versus another friend of the show, TSM. Do we have a live score? Has it started yet?
Gen G is up 1-0 in a BO3.
All right, so still very early
on.
on.
You know what? It actually hasn't started. They go in with the 1-0 advantage.
Okay, they're in the winner's side. All right.
Yeah, they're on the winner's side.
So there you go. If you're watching live,
advantage.
If you're on Twitch, you can check out the final after the show. If not, we'll talk about it on Wednesday night for Thursdays. And in other news, we have Fnatic. They already partnered with Gucci earlier in the year. Well, now they are partnering with Nike. So not Nike's first venture in esports, but still, it's a pretty big get by Fnatic.
Dude, badass partnership by Fnatic. Like that is a really freaking cool partnership, and that I assume to be more like true wearable gear. You know, like stuff that people might actually want. The Gucci watch, nobody. Let's be real, nobody was buying that shit. Okay, the only people right now that are wearing the Gucci watch are the ones that it was given to for free through the org. Not very many people probably bought that. They're still selling number like 78 of 121, you know, like there's still quite a few left, I'm sure. But this is a freaking cool partnership. Like Nike, you know what you're getting into. Like you're gonna get some, I think you'll get some really good looking gear here.
Yes. Yeah. I'm torn when this stuff happens because the traditional sports fan in me tells me I shouldn't own gear from multiple teams. Like I'm a Cloud9 guy and I have all my Cloud9 stuff. But Fnatic makes it very difficult to not buy some of their merch. Like Fnatic, I almost found myself like somehow we make fun of 100 Thieves so much on the show. I like almost bought their latest drop. It to be like ironic, but also just to have it.
The New Jersey's clean.
I know, but it's like I've made fun of them so much. I'm like, well, damn. Now I kind of want your merch.
See, I'm like the esports Wonderlust. I have like gear from I do not
collect
have
it.
multiple pieces from one team, I don't believe.
Yeah, there you go.
At this point.
All right. Also, breaking news. I think Hex is an ex-Nitr0 owner, according to Hazmat Pete. He tells us that he's an ex-owner. So
You should have said per sources.
Per sources. Sorry, Hazmat Pete. Hopefully you are not in trouble for leaking that information to us. But there you go. There you have it. All right. That will do it for this episode of The Center Ring. If you're watching live, thank you. Thank you, everyone on Twitch chat. Stick around. We always do like a little post-show chat after the outro. Get your questions in. If you're not watching live, thank you just as much. If you're listening to this later on in the podcast, we appreciate it all the same. Love you. We will be back Wednesday night talking something. I think we'll have the first couple rounds of champs out of the way at that point. So we can maybe talk some COD champs. Right? I think that technically
we
starts
should
on
know who got 11th and 12th. So maybe that takes up a whole segment.
Yep. So we'll make fun of those teams for getting absolutely nothing. Talk some Valorant. Talk some maybe CS. We'll have the start of Cologne. So if something exciting happens there, we'll figure it out. You know us. We always have something to rant and rave about. But that will be Wednesday night live on Twitch for Thursday's episode. So check that out. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring if you're not doing so already. And our Discord link is also in the description there. So feel free to join that. But for Anuj, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.